Resident Evil 4 is a masterpiece. Wait, didn't another YouTuber say that exact same thing? Anyway, I think a grand majority of people can agree with me on that statement. I said it when I played it for the first time in 2021, and I'll say it a million times more. RE4 is not only a groundbreaking game, but its history and the impact it left on the gaming industry as a whole is very interesting. To celebrate the 20th anniversary of what is quite possibly my favorite video game of all time, I decided to make a video discussing Resident Evil 4, its development history, and how it impacted the gaming industry and the community around the game as a whole. Resident Evil 4 began development as early as 1999. I briefly touched on this in my Devil May Cry review, but Hideki Kamiya was given the director's chair after his success with Resident Evil 2. Kamiya felt like he was restricted by the tight spaces and survival aspects of the series, so he wanted to try something different. The game would have starred Tony Redgrave, the son of Oswald Spencer, investigating a castle infested with BOWs. Of course, this concept would end up turning into Devil May Cry. As for Shinji Mikami and the Resident Evil team, it was back to the drawing board. The game went through several other concepts, a couple of which once again spawned other games, such as Haunting Ground. Eventually, in 2004, they finally landed on something that worked. And on January 11th, 2005, Resident Evil 4 was released on Nintendo's GameCube and would release on the PlayStation 2 9 months later in October. Then on PC and Wii in 2007, then on HD consoles in 2011, then on PC again in 2014 on Steam, PS4 and Xbox One in 2016, Nintendo Switch in 2019, and finally Oculus Quest 2 in 2021. That's a lot of ports. As another YouTuber, Critical Nobody, has said, it's Capcom's Skyrim. If it isn't enough to show how popular Resident Evil 4 is, then I don't know what else would. The game begins with a monologue from RE2's protagonist, Leon S. Kennedy. He explains that 6 years after the events of Resident Evil 2 and 3, Umbrella had been disbanded after being exposed for being involved in the outbreak of Raccoon City. He is now under the order of the United States government and has been assigned to protect the president's family. Coincidentally, the daughter of said president, Ashley Graham, was kidnapped by an unknown group in Spain. Leon is then sent to a rural village in the hopes that he can locate Ashley and bring her home safely. Now, as downright predictable and ridiculous as that can be, it works in favor of the game due to the fact it doesn't take itself that seriously. You're meaning to tell me that Leon just walked into this stranger's home, tried speaking English to him, got annoyed when he rightfully wanted Leon to leave, and then acted surprised when he defended himself? Now, of course, we know that he wasn't a normal person. Hell, if you inspect the body after killing him, Leon notes that he's not a zombie. It's after this you run through some enemies, save a dog, and I hope you save the dog because if you don't, you are a terrible person. Run through more enemies, and finally make your way to the village. This is a very popular opinion, but this is one of the best beginning sections in any video game. Several enemies on screen at once, intense music playing as you fight the horde of villagers, and the fear of getting your head taken off by the Chainsaw Man, or Dr. Salvador. After barely making it out alive, you finally hear this.
Oh, la campana. Es hora de rezar. Tenemos que irnos. Lord Sattler.
And then Leon says this.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Realistically, this would get Leon laughed at, and to be honest, it is strange to hear such a cheesy one-liner after nearly losing your head, but it adds so much charm to the game that it's hard to imagine a version of RE4 where the line just doesn't exist. One-liners like those are sprinkled throughout the game, and they are just as hilarious.
Okay, let me guess. She's the president's daughter?
That's too good for a guess. Want to start explaining?
Psychic powers. I've been expecting you, my brethren.
No thanks, bro. Monsters. Guess after this there'll be one less to worry about.
Of course, cheesy dialogue and a predictable yet charming story isn't the only thing RE4 is known for. That rhymed, wow. I'd argue it has the best gameplay design and structure in gaming history. While yes, the game does have tank controls and is difficult to adjust to if you're more familiar with more modern RE games, the game itself is designed around its limitations. Enemies don't just sprint at you at full force and wreck your shit, instead they slow down once they get at a certain distance. To sort of counter that, Leon's aim is a bit shaky, which also makes sense lore-wise considering he got shot in the shoulder in the last mainline game he was in. Another thing is Leon cannot move and aim at the same time. While it didn't take them until RE6 to get that down, I'd argue it works in favor for RE4. It makes you feel more vulnerable in stressful situations. RE4 also evolved the inventory system, being known as the Tetris-style inventory. Instead of items taking 1 or 2 slots, they are now varied in sizes, encouraging you to organize your inventory in order to fit things like guns, healing items, grenades, and even weapon attachments. In order for a more streamlined and smooth experience, stuff like key items and treasures don't take up inventory space anymore, and instead have a dedicated menu to view them. Speaking of which, how can I not mention the Merchant?
Got something that might interest you.
He lets you buy the stuff I mentioned earlier, plus you can sell treasures or weapons to fund either a better gun or upgrade the ones you already have. If you fully upgrade one, you can get a special upgrade specific to that gun. For example, fully upgrading the starting pistol will increase the chance of a critical headshot, or upgrading the striker increases its magazine size to 100. Now, one thing that can't be ignored when it comes to discussions about this game is Ashley. Some people swear she is the absolute worst, or that she keeps getting in the way. I'll be real with you, Chief. If you think Ashley's AI is bad, I think you just suck ass at the game. She sticks close to you while navigating, she glues herself to your back while you aim, and if she isn't behind you, she ducks so you can avoid hitting her. And if you do kill her by accident, it's very likely your fault for not paying attention, and you just need to get better. The only thing I genuinely don't like about Ashley is that she has to have her health upgraded alongside Leon's. Granted, you don't need to give her all of your yellow herbs. In fact, in most of my playthroughs, she doesn't have max health. It's still annoying though, but I'm glad the remake fixed up on that issue. Another thing RE4 excels at is audio design. The game does an incredible job of using audio to tell you what's going on. For example, enemies make distinct noises that let you know they are nearby. Ganados, for instance, audibly grunt or yell when they're about to swing. You can hear the sounds of crossbows being ready before they open fire, and rarer enemies like the Regenerator make sounds specific to them. The game also has great weapon sounds. Stuff like the individual sounds to guns firing and their reload sounds are all fantastic. I will forever have the bolt action rifle reload sound engraved in my brain. All this is thanks to Yoshihiko Wada, the chief sound designer for the game. The soundtrack by far is one of my favorite parts of the game. Each track that plays throughout the game is just perfect. And don't even get me started on Serenity. It's my favorite track in video game history and has been featured on my Spotify Wrapped every year since 2021. The soundtrack was composed by I'm gonna butcher this really bad, I'm sorry. Misao Senbangi and Shusaku Uchiyama, who honestly don't get as much credit for their work as they should. I don't know if they work at Capcom anymore, but their work is amazing. I know I've been praising this game heavily enough already, but even masterpieces have flaws. For one, the second half of the game does become a bit of a slog as the game throws more projectile-based enemies at you. It doesn't help that areas like the island are more crowded, so it's tougher to try and avoid them. Also, as cool and iconic as the QuickTime events, or QTEs, are, I still don't like them. I specifically don't like them in the modern HD ports. See, when RE4 made the transition to full HD in 2014 and 2016, the frame rate was increased to 60. One problem, double the frame rate also means double the input for QTEs. For some reason. Hope your controller can handle it. Also, cutscenes that involve QTEs, such as the Krauser knife fight, don't have much high stakes in the modern ports. For example, on the PlayStation 2 version, if you press X and square instead of R1 and R2, the game would register that you failed the QTE. In the modern port on PS4, you could just press both at the same time and it will still register that you hit the right one. As I mentioned earlier, since the frame rate went from 30 to 60, stuff like mashing a button for something requires quicker presses, which can put stress on the controller. The overall quality of the modern ports is mixed to say the least. The textures weren't upscaled enough and their age really shows on the Steam and modern console ports. The PS4 version especially is really annoying. I would know, it's my most played version. There's minor stuff like certain assets missing and glitches. The most prevalent in my experience, however, is crashing. The game crashes. A lot. As far as I can tell, nothing specific causes them. They just randomly happen if you skip certain scenes in the game at random. If you play the Steam version, download the HD project. It's a mod that completely overhauls the textures and it looks really good. It is free, but the developers do accept donations. Seriously, go check it out, it's worth it. As per tradition with every RE game, there's some sick bonus content for when you finish the main game. Mercenaries from RE3 returns, this time with a lot more polish, and it's a lot of fun. Until the RE4 remake, this used to be my favorite Mercs mode in the whole series. Granted, it is a rough start since you begin with only Leon, and his kit isn't the greatest in the world. Once you get over that hurdle though, it's super addicting. If you ask me, Wesker is probably my favorite character. There's also Assignment Ada, where you play as Ada Wong and collect Plaga samples. It's not bad by any means, but it's definitely a one and done type game. Hell, I never played it again until this video. And finally, there's Separate Ways, a whole new campaign that shows what Ada was up to during the main story. It's a pretty good complementary campaign, but one thing that can't be ignored is its cutscenes. See, when RE4 was brought over to the PS2, Separate Ways was made to drive up sales of the port. Granted, I think it worked since Capcom claims it's the best-selling version of the game. Anyway, since the PS2 was a bit underpowered compared to the GameCube, all the in-game cutscenes were replaced with FMVs, aka full motion videos. When RE4 was ported to Wii and beyond, all the in-game cutscenes were kept intact. However, since Separate Ways was made only for PS2 at the time, there was no way to replace its cutscenes, so on PS4 for example, it looks like this. Ugh. Of course, the game also has some pretty sick collectibles. Completing the main story once unlocks Leon's classic RPD outfit, and Ashley gets an outfit resembling a pop star, I think. You also get an infinite ammo rocket launcher and the Matilda, the pistol Leon had in RE2. Getting a 5-star rating on every Mercenaries map with every character grants you the Magnum, which when fully upgraded has infinite ammo. Completing Separate Ways grants you a mobster outfit for Leon and a full suit of medieval armor for Ashley. What's cool about this is that it gives Ashley pure invincibility from literally everything. The armor also makes her so heavy that the Ganados can't even pick her up. Oh, and she might be a bit too heavy for Leon as well.
Major infection detected.
Separate Ways also grants what is possibly one of the coolest unlockables in any RE game, the Chicago Typewriter. It's an infinite ammo submachine gun that shreds any enemy in sight. And when paired with the Mafia costume, Leon gets a special animation for when you hit the reload button. Lastly, completing the main story on Professional mode gives you the Plaga Removal Laser, or PRL-412. It's basically Doom's BFG, but for Resident Evil 4. Fun fact, it actually got a buff in future ports. In the PS2 version, which is where it was first introduced, it only shot a singular beam in a straight line. In later ports, however, it locks onto multiple targets at once. One last thing I want to talk about is the impact Resident Evil 4 had on the industry. While it wasn't the first game to use the over-the-shoulder view, it definitely popularized it. I'm sorry, I can't say that word right. Games like Fortnite, Gears of War, Dead Space, and all the other dozens of third-person shooters after 2005 have some sort of lineage to Resident Evil 4. RE4 also influenced Capcom themselves, who kept trying to recapture the magic it had with games like RE5, Operation Raccoon City, and RE6. One of my favorite things about RE4 is the community around it. Modders who spend nearly 8 years on a mod just because a multi-billion-dollar corporation was lazy with its remaster, speedrunners who discover all sorts of tricks and break the game to beat it as fast as humanly possible, and of course all the fantastic people on social media who create fan art for the game. Resident Evil 4 changed my life, and I bet it changed a lot of other people's lives too. With how well crafted it is, it's no wonder people are so dedicated to it, even 20 years after its release. If you enjoyed this video, then please do consider subscribing. I am so damn close to 2,000, and it would mean a lot if you hit that red button and turn on notifications. Now, I will be like other YouTubers and show you a graph telling you that more people aren't subscribed, watch my videos, or whatever. If you don't want to subscribe, that's okay. I just want to real quickly end off this video saying that, I wasn't kidding when I said RE4 changed my life. In fact, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if I hadn't played it. Yeah, I wasn't in the best mental state at the time, but when I picked up that game for the first time and saw Leon's head get torn off by a chainsaw, I knew that I was in for a wild ride. And then once I finally finished it, I realized that there was more to keep going for. If you haven't played Resident Evil 4 yet, I hope this video has somewhat convinced you to do so. And if you've already played it and you're still watching this, I hope you have fun replaying it, because I know for a fact you're going to. In fact, once I'm done editing this video, I'm gonna replay it. Again. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.
So, who was that woman anyway?
Why do you ask?
Come on, tell me.
She's like a part of me I can't let go. Let's leave it at that.